Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Ashwaubenon Park Recreation and Forestry Board meeting for January 19th, 2021. You have a roll call, please.
Mark Castonia.
Here.
Justin Miner is excused. Tracy Fluke. Here. Aideen Hess is remote. Heidi Murphy. Here. Deborah Lundberg. She was going to be virtual. And then Chris Serbel is excused as well.
Okay, well, welcome for Heidi for the first meeting. And for Tracy,
Thank you, Mark.
welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, full circle, I don't know.
Funny how those things go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I want to hear everybody at home too. Where's the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it serves, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, number 4, action on the agenda. Does anybody have any comments concerning the agenda as presented?
Move to approve.
I make a motion to accept.
Do I hear a second?
Tracy was the first.
I'll second, that's fine.
Okay, are there any further comments? If not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Comments from the public. Do we have any public here? Doesn't look like we have any local public, any virtual public? I guess not. Are there any written communications? Shaking head, no written communications. Action on the consent agenda. This consists of 2 things: the Park Recreation Board regular meeting minutes from October 20th of 2020. If anybody has any comments, additions, or corrections. And also the Parks Recreation Forestry expenditures since our last meeting. If anybody has any speak up now.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments?
I just wanted to say regarding the expenditures, we've got a new financial system where everything is electronic now. Many times the invoices come in directly to the finance department. They get forwarded to us electronically. We sign off on them, and we never even we don't get a paper copy. So they're really trying to go the paperless route. So during that process of switching over, there are quite a few bit more expenditures than what's being shown here. And I think we need to, within our department, figure out how to get these on paper, because a lot of times Sue will never even see them anymore, and she's the one that puts these on. So it's just that we just need to figure out what and how to do it.
Okay.
A little bit more. I just wanted to say that this is not the only expenditures we've had. We've had a number more, but we don't have paper copies to move on.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. Do we hear a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 8, action items. Discussion on ash tree removal.
I'd like to call our village forester up to the front here. Tim has been working diligently for the last, it's got to be, almost all of December and certainly into January, because this is a fairly detailed project coming up for the large ash tree removal project that literally we've been talking about. We knew this was coming 10 years ago, and we've been probably talking about it for the last 3 or 4. So the time is upon us where the removal of the ash trees by contractors, we're at that point now where it's too much to do in-house. We're still doing them in-house, but there's no way that we're going to be able to continue the pace that we're on during the winter, especially when they start dying, and there's just too many of them. So I will let Tim take the floor here and let him explain what the process is and a little bit about the bid specs that are going out.
Okay, thank you. If you remember, and some of you don't remember, back in March, right before things kind of went sideways in the world, we approved at the village board level funding for a 5-year Emerald Ash Borer management plan. That amount was just about $1.5 million. It was all encompassing with street trees, park trees, replanting of residential street trees at no cost to the resident, management of native areas on the fringes where it would impact recreation opportunities and safety within some of our parks. A little bit of money for potential surveying to identify property lines and a few other smaller items. With that being said, this basically marks the point when our Emerald Ash Borer management is going from a proactive approach to more of a reactive approach. So we've done as much as we can ahead of time over the last 15 years to prepare ourselves for this. However, the inevitable is still out there and we need to finish the project. With that being said, street and park trees were scheduled to be removed in years 1 through 3. So that'll be 2021 through 2023. Plantings for street trees will follow, will take place the following year. There's going to be a little bit of a lag time from the removal, stump grinding, restoration, and then we can follow up the next year with a replacement tree if desired by the property owner. With that being said, we started, I developed some bid specifications kind of from scratch. This is something we've never done at the village. Talked to some of my colleagues that are either community foresters or consultants in the state, tried to get some input, direction, what worked for them. I talked to a bunch of people down in the Milwaukee area. They're kind of done with this. So it was really good to touch base with them and see what worked for them. And I was also able to get some estimated budget pricing to kind of come up with that budget request. The document that is in the green sheet before you tonight are the bid specs that we sent out to contractors to do this work in 2021. The way that I developed the areas that we are going to do this year is I basically found the worst couple blocks in the village, and it's as far as EAB infestation is concerned. And Cantor Lane, there's a bunch of apartment buildings that border up on US 41. Cantor Lane probably has the most advanced infestation. So wanting to work in management areas or larger groups, I started with that management area, which is area 2, and then we had a couple parks that needed to get done this year. So long story short, we're basically going to do all the ash roughly on the east side of US 41 within our parks and streets this coming year. With that being said, we do have an ongoing tree planting grant with New Water at Ashwaubenon, Argonne Park, and Smith Park, which are 3 parks that are going to have a lot of ash removals in them. So the removals are going to tie in nicely with that tree planting work that we can hopefully do shortly thereafter. The bid specs were sent out to just over 35 contractors. A lot of them are local in the area. Some of them are from the valley. Some of them are even from outside of the area. The other ones that might be willing to travel for the work. So we will see what comes in. Never really done anything of this scope or magnitude, so it'll hopefully the conversations that we had with some of my colleagues are going to be point us in the right direction. Bids are due on February 9th, 2 p.m., not a minute late, and then they will be reviewed at the park board meeting next month in February, and then subsequently at the 23rd of February, a village board meeting where they will consider the bids. If you look in the packet, and there's a lot of stuff in there. You know, if you have questions on it individually, I'd be happy to discuss that. But there's actually 4 distinct projects in here, starting on page 18. That project is going to be the removal of all the street trees in Management Area 5. 147 of them. That'll be one bid. Contractors will, and this will be the same for all the projects. The contractor will give us a unit price for each of the diameter classes that are there. So for instance, you know, they're going to estimate what it takes to remove a 7 to 12 inch tree. Give me a price for all trees within that diameter class, and I've calculated how many inches we have, and we'll come up with an overall price for that unit or that diameter class. Sum them up at the bottom, and then we can compare numbers that way. The reason for that, you know, obviously it's a lot easier to remove a 4-inch tree than a 44-inch tree. You know, it's not 10 times more work, it's exponentially more work. So this will give an opportunity not only for the village to get honest pricing, but for the contractors to give us reasonable numbers rather than a straight linear price for all diameter classes. So project A is all the street trees, management areas 1 through 5. Project B will be specifically at Ashwaubenon Park, 51 inventory trees. So those are trees that we prune, that we maintain. Generally, we cut the grass around them. They're in the green spaces of the parks. They will also be responsible for grinding the stump and restoration. In addition to that, if you look in the maps that were provided on page 6, there's a natural area that I'm going to have them remove. The trees, the ash trees that are kind of on the fringe of that would fall out into our green spaces, into the roadway. We've got some trails down in there. Just basically make that area safe. That removal will not include stump grinding, so they'll just remove the trees and the debris and leave it at that. With that being said, Rex had mentioned that our own crews have been doing a fair amount of work. Public Works has been tremendous this winter with not a lot of snow. They've had some time to get out and do some other work, and the weather's been quite favorable. So the area kind of where by Shelter 2, we removed a lot of ash trees in there. And then there's a little woodlot kind of by the Chief Ashwaubenon, the little trailway that goes from the parking lot, and crews have been doing that too.
By the stormwater pond back in there, where the scouting area is.
So those were originally slated to be in this grant project, and I had them in there and mapped out, and I had to take them out because the guys are getting a lot of work done. So that's obviously a tremendous help.
Tim, for those trees, are they going to be spraying the stumps then with a herbicide?
Yeah. So that would be the second project. So they'll, come up with a total for that, and it'll be one contractor for all the work for out at Ashwaubenon. A similar project at Argonne Park. Trees there are significantly bigger than some of the other parks. Looks like we've got 19 left there to remove, and then on the fringe area around the outside of the park, kind of by the soccer fields, we've got a number of ash trees that they'll be removing as well.
As a point of reference, Tim, roughly how many ash trees have you already taken down at Argonne? Just so they know how many we've already been working on over the years.
At Argonne, probably 25. There were some underneath the power lines that were, those lovely beat out ones that the power company leaves. And we also just had natural mortality, but then we also had the trail system that we put in about 2 years ago. We kind of decided where it would be best to put the trail, and then, with the understanding that the ash are going to be removed shortly anyways, we removed a bunch of those kind of ahead of time. And the fourth project is going to be just a combination Fort Howard Smith and Canterbury Parks. That will be a single project, 43 ash there, remove the stumps and restoration. So we will see where the bids come in. It's possible we could have 4 different contractors on, one for each of those 4 projects, or we could have a single one that was going to tackle all 4 of them. Whatever's going to be in the financial best interest of the village is kind of the direction that we'll go. And I did put a cover sheet with the bid specs, making that very clear that, we may award 1 to 4 contracts for that.
And your completion date on this is the end of this year then, is that correct?
Yeah, I put in December 15th. Probably tough to get grass planted in December, so they're gonna have to probably not wait that long. Yeah, because we've got another project that'll be right behind this next year.
Next year.
A similar project. Yep.
Does anybody have any comments or questions for Tim?
I have a couple questions, Tim. For the bidders, are you requiring any kind of bid bond or performance bond? I didn't see it in the paperwork, and is that typically what you do? I know this is a first for this type of bid, but it's just a huge project. I mean, a potential $250,000 project. And I don't know if that's something you typically do.
We haven't on pruning contracts. Our biggest one probably has been about $70,000, and we haven't done it on that.
Okay.
And that $250,000 is on the super high end.
Okay.
I crunched some numbers. We're probably going to be about 175. But that number is a little bit on the high end.
On some of the building contracts, Tracy, like the sports complex,
Then you do.
yeah, a performance bond would be required on something like that.
Okay.
We haven't, as Tim said, done that in the past on forestry-type projects,
Okay.
on the service work.
Okay.
I guess if we end up with some issues that, this year, then we certainly
you
can
might do
look
it in
at
the
that.
future.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
I noticed you require a pesticide applicator or to have someone on staff that has that certification. My question to you is, do you need to have a certified arborist on for this type of project, or because they're removing, it's not as big a deal? Or it's just removals, I should say?
Yeah. No, I did not require a certified arborist. For the pruning contracts, I do.
Okay.
Because there's a certain level of,
Skill.
skill and, and knowledge that's required to do that.
Yeah.
Removal of trees is probably not quite to that level.
Okay.
And the other thing too is if we remove that certified arborist requirement, we're going to probably get a lot more bidders. It's going to be a more competitive situation too. Any other questions?
One of the reasons that, other than the obvious, where you need to know the scope of this project and what we're doing within the department, it's good for you to know what the issue is and the scope of what is coming forward, because it's going to change the landscape in parks, and it's going to change the landscape in many of our neighborhoods, especially many of our streets. I don't know if everyone realizes how that's going to look when all of these trees come down, especially when we're talking some of our residential streets. There's not a lot of them that are totally all ash up and down, but there are some. And literally, it's going to look like a brand-new neighborhood without all of these trees. And there are going to, I'll almost guarantee it, there's probably people out there that have no idea this is coming still, even though we've been talking about it for years. And they're not going to be happy. There's going to be concerns, there's probably going to be a number of calls, and I just need everyone here to know a little bit that, what we're doing and a little bit of a background, because you may get a call, you may get a question, you may hear, word on the street if you've got kids in a program or something like that, hear people talking, and any information dissemination that you as a park board can do would be appreciated, because really it's a big information campaign. Tim mentioned a couple of things, but just as another point, if there's a resident that's out there that wants to keep their ash tree, and they don't want us to cut it down. They're willing, we will allow that if they are treating it privately. There is a chemical treatment that can be done. It's good for 2 years, Tim, 2 to 3 years, basically. But then it's in perpetuity. You have to continue to pay for that treatment every 2 to 3 years. So really, there are some, I think there's a couple people that have said they are doing it and want to continue doing it. Most people will probably like, no, I don't want to do that, forever and ever. That's a lot of money, even though it's a beautiful tree. But some people will choose to do that. So we're also allowing for that option. All they need to do is fill out a form that we have in the office, and Tim just enters that into the system, and then that tree will be bypassed by the crew, who's doing the cutting in that particular management area.
Those are village trees that you're referring to, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct. The trees that are being done are specifically street trees in the right-of-way. Any trees that are on private property, any trees that are on private property that even if they're hanging over, into the right-of-way, if the base of the tree is on private property, it's considered a private tree, and it's up to the homeowner then to decide what they want to do with it, and it's on the homeowner's responsibility list of, do I want to treat that or do I want to have that cut down? These are specifically only the village trees within the right-of-way area, within conservancy areas that the village owns that would impact safety or park trees.
If a resident has a concern about his tree, not the village tree, is Tim or somebody in his department available that they can call and say, come and tell me what I should do with this tree, or?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And they have, and Tim
Got one this afternoon.
Yep.
Concerned about his ash trees. No, wasn't really sure what to do, so we'll go get that, at least get him the right information, and he can make a decision what he wants.
And a lot of people don't even, unless you're a tree person, you may not know the difference between an ash or a maple, and that's what Tim is for. He goes out on a regular basis and takes a looks at trees, he evaluates them and gives advice to homeowners to the extent that he can give advice without steering someone to a private business or a particular name. He'll say, here's what I would do, and then it's up to the homeowner to make the decision on who to contact for that.
All right.
I would assume, Tim, if there's a resident that wants to treat their tree or the street tree, that you would look at it before you would allow them to do it, and if it's not worth trying to treat, you would let them know that?
Yeah, and especially as we move forward into this, I wouldn't recommend treating a tree that is more than 30% dead or has 30% dieback. At that point, I would still allow them to do it. However, I would just caution that, you're getting close to that tipping point. If they want to try it for a year and we reevaluate it in a year or two, that's fine. But I don't have an issue with that.
Okay.
Any other questions or
Can I
comments?
just clarify the planting you said? So the planting will come not this year, the next year for the trees that are
Yeah.
coming down this year.
Yeah.
And the money that the village board set aside, will that include the cost of those plantings, or does the residents still have to pay for those new trees coming in, or is it a mix?
No, we will cover the entire cost of those trees.
The
Just
villages.
given the unique nature of what we're dealing with. When I've been measuring and marking and identifying, that was like the first question they would ask. Can I get a new tree? Am I going to get a new tree? So to me, that was something that was, at least the feedback that I got from the people I talked to,
Yep.
that was something that was very important to them. So I did include that into the bid. I presented it to the board, and they agreed.
Okay, great.
Anybody else have any questions or concerns? Well, this was for information only, so I guess we can move on.
Yeah, then we'll bring it back next month with what we get for the bids, and we'll see what we have, make a recommendation, and we'll take it to the village board.
Okay, good. Item 8B, update on the 2020 Community Center report.
I'd like to call our recreation supervisor up to the table, David Rohrig. David's put together some general information. I believe you've handed it out to everybody, correct?
Correct, yes.
Or the people that are here anyway. And then I know we have Dean coming into us remotely, so as we talk about some of this stuff, as you give a report, maybe if you could just make sure you say the numbers out loud so Dean can take notes or make comparisons, that would be great. So 2020 was an interesting year, obviously, affected literally all aspects of our department in terms of programming, maintenance, so on and so forth. Community center was no different, starting out like gangbusters, and then all of a sudden we were shut down for several months, opened back up, and just now we're starting to slowly crawl out of that hole and get a fair amount of people still interested in reserving the community center for different events that they may have. David's put together some numbers. Also, we've put together a list of all of the evaluations that were sent back to us. Whenever a community center rental group uses one of the rooms, paid rental, they are automatically sent an evaluation. It's automatically generated through our system. And then when they fill that out, if they choose to fill it out, then we get a copy of that back. It's sent back to all of our user group, our management staff. And that's what you see here on the larger sheet of paper. So David, I will let you talk about what our community center was like in 2020.
All right. As Rex said, 2020 was definitely a challenge. We started off the year looking great, on pace to generate more revenue than we had in 2019. At one point before the pandemic really hit, every Saturday and Sunday, basically May through October, we were booked solid with rentals. Obviously, once COVID-19 hit, that changed in a hurry. For a few months, we were completely shut down with the governor's orders. That was April and May. And then once things started to kind of slowly open up, it was still a challenge because we were limited to a very small number, usually 10 or less people in a gathering or even 50 or less people. Most of our rentals are, 50, 60, 70 people up to 250 people. So that was cause for a lot of cancellations. We thought that the best approach to this, obviously, pandemic out of everybody's hands, was to offer full refunds during this time, which we're still doing. It's not fair to, penalize those renters that are coming in and having something like this happen, especially people that had planned weddings, big birthday parties and things like that. Up to 3 years in advance, you could have never seen this happening. So hopefully, with these groups that we've worked with, try to be accommodating. They'll remember that in the future, when they've got a next big event that they're going to have planned. And I know quite a few groups have even, tried to reschedule as well. So hopefully we'll slowly kind of build back up. As Rex said, the last few weeks, we've been getting a lot more phone calls, a lot more groups coming into the community center trying to rent for the summer. I think with, news of the vaccine coming out, hopefully the rollout process starts going a little bit better. That people are going to start getting more comfortable coming back out and, having those gatherings. At least right now, we're not in a spot where we have to limit the size of these gatherings because they're considered private events by invite only, compared to some places like restaurants and bars that are limited because it's a public situation where they can't really control who's coming in and out and what their numbers would be. So that's kind of a benefit for us. Like I said, it's not going to be a snap of the finger type deal. It's going to have to be, just as people get more comfortable, working our way back up to that. So to put it really in perspective, I got some hard numbers from 2019 to 2020 to show you where we were at, to where we went, and I said hopefully build back up to that level and hopefully keep expanding our rentals that we're having. So 2019, our rental revenue was just over 53,000. It was $53,105.99. In 2020, that dropped to $27,805.58. So a percentage decrease of just over 47%. 2019 number of permits, we had 387 in 2019. 2020 went down to 163, so a decrease of just over 57%. Like I said, they're definitely big numbers. Obviously not much we can do. I feel like we have been, at least the last few months, since things have kind of opened up, been able to host events. Not to the point where we were before. We've been trying to host, one thing, on the weekend where we don't have to do a whole lot of sanitizing between events. And I feel like that's worked out pretty well, to at least still be generating some revenue and still having some permits, but just trying to do it in a safer way. And then as far as COVID precautions, we have obviously been working on this for a while. It's something that's kind of ever changing as we find out more about the way it's transmitted and spread. So just trying to stay on top of different things that we can do to make sure that our facility is clean and safe. Among those precautions, we have multiple hand sanitizer stations located within the facility. We've got a special COVID-19 disinfecting spray that's used after each group to clean tables, chairs, and counters. Masks are required in the common areas of the facility, so that would be like the lobby and the bathrooms. We've limited recreation program class sizes to 25% of the capacity. Our rental supervisors are watching to make sure everything is disinfected by rental groups, and they're actually assisting with the disinfecting process. We have an additional disinfecting checklist along with our normal cleaning checklist. We have additional daily sanitizing by full-time maintenance staff before office hours. Tim, who is our full-time maintenance person, comes in super early before I'm awake, to make sure that the building is safe for the general public to come into. And then we've been, like I said, working with rental groups to change the date of their rental or completely cancel without the cancellation penalty that we've had in the past. So I know Sue's been busy, working with groups, trying to reschedule things, and then offering refunds, especially those first few months when everything came to a screeching halt. And then our final page here is actually all of the survey feedback that we got back from 2020. Obviously, there's a few comments and concerns here, but it's very nice when people voice these things that weren't, up to their standard. There's not a whole lot of negative on there, but I always feel and tell people that, if you don't let me know about an issue that you have, there's no way that I can correct it for next time. So to actually get some stuff in writing, most of it's pretty easy changes that we can make. So that, the groups that we have keep coming back and keep using the facility. But yeah, like I said, 2020 was definitely a challenge. Hoping for a better 2021.
Sue, if you could do me a favor, I don't know if it's been done yet, but I just kind of realized if you could take the information that David has here, and if you could email that to the park board members who are
Yeah.
not physically present here tonight, if it hasn't been done already, just to make sure that they're able to see it.
Rex,
Yes, Dean,
could you send me a copy of David's report?
that's what we will do. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have an idea of what 2021 is going to look like? Like I know you said events are ramping back up, but is there a projection at all? Or?
It's really hard to, I guess, fully project at this point.
Better than 2020.
Yeah, like I said, we've been
Well,
starting.
I guess that's kind of the measure, though.
Yeah, we've been
If we put 2020 at the base, then
starting to get
let's
busier
just
and
hope we
busier.
can do better.
Yeah, Actually, if you look at our facility schedule for summer, a lot of the weekends are already starting to
Okay,
book up.
good.
So the thing that was kind of unfortunate for 2020 is when the governor limitations kind of lifted and we were able to open it up to larger events, then we got hit in that huge spike September, October, November. So we lost a lot of rentals at that point. And those are some of our more, bigger events, the weddings
The
and stuff
weddings,
like
yeah,
that.
okay.
So, if you start losing quite a few of those,
Yeah.
it hurts you pretty quickly.
Like I said, if we can make it through 2020, we can make it through anything.
Yeah, so I said, especially right now, it's kind of a more quiet time. But once you hit March, April, May, then things really start to take off. So, the closer we are to normal or being in a better situation at that point, then just the more it's going to help us out.
Okay, thank you.
Dave,
Yes.
I want to thank you for all your efforts in navigating through these challenging times and dealing with that.
Thank you. Definitely been a learning process, and got to be willing to change and work on the fly, I guess.
Anybody have any questions for Dave or Brett?
So right now, if someone rents a room, there's no limit on the numbers except for if there's a capacity limit on that particular room, and they do not have to wear any masks in there, is that correct? So
Correct.
just in the lobby area and the back?
Yeah, once they leave the room that's their private event, that's when they have to wear the masks. But once they're in their room, it's up to them. Most of them are going to wear it.
Yep.
I haven't really seen too many people not wearing them in the room. But there is no limit size because it's a private event.
Okay. Then how about a park program that's a recreation program? It sounds like you capped some of your programs, the 25% cap. Is that still on? And do you require masks if it's a program that you as a department are sponsoring?
We have limited it to 25% just to be on the safe side and to set a good example. I don't think it's something that we necessarily have to do, but I wouldn't feel comfortable not doing it. And then masks, we are requiring people wear masks, but obviously that can get tricky once you start, some of our population that comes into some of our programs, may or may not have health issues, and just how you enforce it or ask questions about that.
So wanted to list some of the programs, that we're having mask wearing on, just so they're all aware.
Yep, our dance classes, our adult fitness classes, our taekwondo program, when, we have like our senior Christmas party or, some of our senior educational classes. Those programs are all wearing masks, if they can. And then also, like our movie matinees and stuff like that where, they're just sitting in there, kind of in their own space, but we still have them spaced out with wearing masks as well, so.
We had the day camp for the first several weeks last summer in the community center until the school district allowed us back into Valley View School. When the kids were in the building, both the staff and the kids who were required to wear masks did not have to take them off until they went outside. On top of that, the kids had their temperature taken, when they throughout the whole summer, whether it was at the community center or at Valley View. But a lot of precautions are trying to be taken.
Yep.
And followed to the best that we're able to.
Even if you look on the floors in the activity room and the park room, you'll see spaces marked with blue painter's tape, the X's. That's to help us keep participants spaced apart in our programming. And then obviously, if we can have programs outside, trying to move some of them outside too.
Yep.
Like normally our basketball class that we have during winter, we offered that in September when the weather was still nice, and we had it outside on the basketball court
Nice.
by the community center.
Anything else? All righty, let's move on to Number 8C, which is the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry
Thanks, David.
Department reports. Thank you, David.
All right, a couple of things. We haven't met for a while, so I'll just pick some of the highlights out of here, and then you're certainly more than welcome to ask any questions about anything that's on here or not on here. The Ashwaubenon Sports Complex project is now complete. That would involve the main reason for it was the walkway, redoing of the walkway that was going up to the top. And I'm happy to announce that the maintenance on that has been greatly, greatly reduced. Glenn, basically, our park foreman, takes the trackless up there now, a couple of passes, and really then it's probably 95% done. Then it's just a matter of clearing out a couple of little corners. So that was a success, very much so. And so, but that project is done. That was, we worked with Rettler on that to design it. And we've asked the Cornerstone Ice Center not to use any salt on that pathway for the first year just because it's new concrete. Len is probably going to be putting sand down and some different things just to try and make do this winter. But so far so good because we really haven't had a lot of snow or ice to even worry about it. So we've been very fortunate there. We talked about the ash tree removals already. Well, here's one that we finally completed. If you remember back in 2017, we got a NRDA GLRI grant. That's the Natural Resource Damage Assessment, along with the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. We had a fairly good-sized grant. I want to say is over $250,000 matching grant. And so the final portion of that was completed just last week. They put up 5 osprey, heron egret colonial nesting platforms on the northwest corner of Ashwaubenon. You can actually see them from Broadway, especially in the wintertime with the leaves on the tree gone. Basically, each telephone pole, which they put into the water within the creek, has three nesting platforms on it with a couple of perches. The thought is because you can see egrets and herons in the park during the summertime and fall and spring, pretty much year round. The thought is, we don't know where those birds are nesting, and we'd like to try and increase those populations for those types of birds. And so working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, we've got, they help administer the grant with us. That's who we report to on the grant. But we've got those platforms, so now we're just keeping our fingers crossed that they look like a good home for some of the birds that we see already in the area, in the creek and in the water. We saw quite a few of them this fall still, quite a few egrets, so we're keeping our fingers crossed. We'll see what happens with it. So, but that was the last. Finally, after 3 years, we got that one done, and I think we got another one coming up actually. That grant is out for right now, working with the DNR on. That one is for increasing the mussel population within the creek. So we're trying to bring some of the wildlife back to the park. Planning right now for the West Main Avenue Trail. We've got a lot of stuff going on right there. It's a fairly short distance. It is between Sand Acres Drive only up to South Ridge Road, which is in front of Monroe Truck, or on the side of Monroe Truck. So the distance isn't very great, but it's an extremely challenging project, and the fact that was at one point one of the village borders. It's a main thoroughfare that goes through there. There is an inordinate amount of fiber optic cable, electrical lines, gas lines, everything going through that corridor. And the relocation of those lines and the planning for the relocation, and it's going to involve probably at least, well, we're already working with 6, 7, 8 different agencies just on the utility relocation. That's what the expense is. The expense isn't actually putting the trail addition is. It's the utility relocation so that the trail can go in. So we're working with that right now. Working with Brown County, we're trying to get an exemption to have the trail 5 foot off back of curb instead of 10 feet. And that will save us quite a bit of, if approved, that would save us an inordinate, quite honestly, an inordinate amount of dollars for the utility relocation if we can have that trail placement at 5 feet. Still looking at options for the Ashwaubenon River Trail on the bridge. Working with Grafe on that. I'm sure we'll be coming forward to Park Board with that. More information on that within a couple of months of where we are at and some of the options that we're looking at for that trail extension. Right now, AECom is working on putting together bid specs for us for work on the Ashwaubenon Marina piers. As you know, the bulbs on each one of the piers, due to the high water and the couple of the northern swells and storm events that we had, they undermined the material underneath on some of those piers, and basically one of them cracked and is starting to sink into the bay a little bit. So it's a matter of tearing some of the bulbs apart and basically rebuilding the ends of the piers. So Village Board approved us to work with AECom on getting the bid specs and bringing those forward. Recreation, obviously we were able to have some programs happening in December. Senior Christmas party, a much smaller Christmas party took place. But those that were there were spread out well and had a good time. Santa's Calling, letters from Santa all worked out well. I want to give kudos to Melody Escoto. Melody's our aquatic coordinator, as you know. But she did a great elf hunt that was extremely popular this year. Basically, she went to well, let's put it this way. Santa lost a bunch of his elves, and the elves decided to populate Ashwaubenon parks on different days of the weeks. So once we found that out, we put out the call for any area families to go looking for those elves, return them to us so we could get them back to Santa. So the kids did a great job of finding the elves. We did it in the morning, we announced it in the afternoon, we had a couple evening hunts. I mean, they could look for them at any point, but with different work schedules that the parents have, we wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to help Santa out.
Most of the marketing for that was on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of stuff on Facebook. So we marketed it on Facebook. We put it in the school, the
Weekly
email
Wednesday.
folders. And it worked out well. You literally within 15, 20 minutes of announcing it, some of the parks had, half a dozen families or more combing the park looking for that. So she did a great job with that. So I want to give her kudos. It was a new program idea, and those are always fun when because we always try new programs, but when you really hit on something, and this one was a good one. And so I just want to say that went over well. Also in recreation right now, just so you know, David is knee-deep in trying to figure out programming for the spring and summer. As you know, the brochure goes to print the first week in March. That's when everything has to be in and finalized for everything. Dates and classes and times and costs. So we're working pretty heavily right now on trying to get together all of our spring and summer programming, literally through the end of August into early September. That'll all be finished up probably within about 6 weeks or so, and then go to print for the summer and mailed to our residents. So busy time right there. Aquatics, we are having swim lessons, as you know. They're modified. Instructors don't go in the water with the younger age groups. The parents have to go into the water with the kids up through level 2. And then from level 3 and up, the instructor also does not go in the water, but at least they can talk to the kids from the deck area and give them instruction on the deck. So there's not that close contact that we've been able to have in the past, obviously. So numbers there are going to be down. I'm hoping, we're thinking we'll do a pool report to the park board next month So Melody can come and talk a little bit more about that. But we are doing that right now. The Ashwaubenon Swim Club is going on. They are working within the COVID guidelines. And we just got approval from the school district today. We submitted a back to swim plan for their first meet. And Mr. Lucius, who's our assistant school superintendent and the finance director for the district, just let Melody know today that was approved. So I want to say in mid-February, the Ashwaubenon Swim Club will be able to have their first meet, which I'm sure they're very excited about. A first home meet, because right now they've been going down to Pleasant Prairie and Waukesha and some of the other larger pools around the
Will
state.
spectators be allowed at that?
What's
Will
that?
spectators be allowed at the one in February?
Spectators, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hard to hear sometimes with
Sorry.
mask. No.
People watching the
Yes,
swimming.
yes. Spectators are going to be allowed. Now, we're trying to follow the same guidelines as the school district has. So at this point, the proposal was for every swimmer or every family, there would be one parent allowed.
Okay.
Which is what the situation is with the high school athletic program. For the games, they just started to allow parents in about 2 weeks ago, I think it is. So we actually flipped our plan to mirror the school district's plan in terms of those numbers. So one person in, and then when the swimmer is done with their last race, the family has to vacate the facility. They don't get to hang out and watch the rest of the meet. Once their child is done, thanks for coming, see you later, type of a thing. But, not the best situation, not probably, what people ultimately would like to get back to. But number one, they're swimming, and number two, they're still able to watch their kids, or at least one person is, so.
Better than nothing, yes.
Yeah, better than nothing. Mom and dad can switch, wristbands or trade off or something like that, so they each have a chance to watch their kids depending upon how many races they're in. So that was we just got that word back today, so we're excited about that. Tim talked about how busy he is right now with the, excuse me, with the EAB takedowns, and so we've been working heavily on that. A lot of talking. I guess I will open up to the floor. Does anyone have any questions on anything that's on here, or anything that they have questions on that is not on the report?
Rex, when you say the Ashwaubenon Marina Piers, is that the marina site that's near off of, I can't think of the road?
Yep,
So-
behind the old Fratello's.
Okay, so what is our responsibility with that? Does the village still own that and Parks and Rec takes care of that, or how does that work?
The piers themselves, the concrete piers themselves, are the village's responsibility. Any of the sub-piers and walkways going off of the pier to where the boats are actually moored are the marina's responsibility. But the concrete walkway is still considered part of the trail system all the way out to the bulb on each end of the south and the north pier. So the maintenance of the pier and the lights on the pier are the village's responsibility.
Any other questions? Items for next meeting's agenda?
I'd like to have put on the next agenda an update on the 2020 deer management plan for the village.
Okay, and then I would like to add on, again, I need to confirm it with Mel, but we're going to try and have the 2020 pool report, as well as the bids for the EAB project. So looks like we have at least 3 at this point.
Anybody else have?
Are you still doing pool rentals right now through COVID? Like for
We are
birthday
not.
parties or anything?
We are not.
No, okay.
No, rental, we have not felt comfortable yet bringing those back, and the school district is absolutely fine with that.
Okay.
Only because, in a competitive type of situation, or when you're giving lessons, you still have control of where the kids are and how many kids are going to be swimming in a particular lane or a particular area.
What they're touching.
When you have those rentals, it's a free-for-all.
Yeah.
And just because of that, we've decided to still hold off on those.
The next meeting is scheduled for February 16th, which is also Election Day, which means we probably won't be able to hold a meeting in this room.
No, which means it might be better to move it.
And I think based on last election, the conference rooms in the Public Works area and Conference Room A were both used for central count of ballots.
What does,
Is there going to be a primary?
yeah, there is. What does Wednesday, the 17th, or February, the 18th look like for you? That's a Wednesday or a Thursday evening, immediately following that Tuesday. And Wednesday might not be, I don't think Wednesday is good for this room, so maybe we need to look at Thursday. And I don't even know about that, but would Thursday, the 18th
Yeah.
potentially work, or we could explore that date? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Can anyone not do Thursdays? Okay, then what we'll do is, I don't want to confirm it yet, but let me, tomorrow we'll take a look in the system and see what is available, if this room is available on Thursday, the 18th, and we will, we'll notify everyone if that would be a go.
Yeah, but on Wednesdays, I think they still use this for court. don't
Court,
they?
yes, yeah, that just popped in my mind after I said that, so ixnay on the Wednesday.
Okay, anything else for anybody? If
I'd
not-
like to welcome any new members.
Yep,
Although Wednesdays would be more entertaining watching the court than probably our park board meeting, but, yeah,
okay.
good stuff that happens there.
With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everyone.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, I guess not. Okay, we're adjourned.
This conference is no longer being